Buongiorno, Steph. How are we? Staying cool?
Staying cool. Yeah. Probably not wearing the best shirt for it.
Bloody hot in the UK at the moment, but it's nice. It's lovely.
What was it yesterday? Record breaking
31 or 32, I think, down south, wasn't it? It was nice.
All those in more sunnier climates, that is very hot for us.
Well, listen, we were discussing this before the UK heat, and this is as people, I think we're pretty good in the heat. I can say for myself as well. I like hot temperatures. Something about UK, especially when it hits 30 plus, it's just unbearable. It's so humid. It's just something about it. And I know other people that live in like Texas, like American, and they're like, yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah. So, you walk past, like, guaranteed in the first 10 seconds, like, you walk past a crowd of people, you hear someone be like, it's too fucking hot.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the tube is, I don't know if you saw this. I know we're off a tangent, but there were actually people being evacuated off trains yesterday.
Like dehydration, overheating?
No, yeah, basically. It was like 45, come up to 50 degrees inside the carriage. So they evacuated. This is Southwestern, so our neck of the woods. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the UK heat. We're here to talk about leaders, Steph. We need some leaders in the Milan squad. So we're going to touch on, obviously, mainly the midfield targets we've been concretely linked to, but also just generally how important the aspect of leadership is. So, yeah, if you want to kind of jump on.
Yeah. Look, I think it's been quite evident that, last season specifically, there was nothing there really. It's come off the back of quite a few seasons where I've been quite critical on coaches like Pioli because the over reliance on leadership, which came from the likes of Ibrahimovic when he was a player, and when he went away for a year, it all kind of crumbled. And like Giroud and I think Florenzi, probably Kier with like one ACL, were the only three players of kind of age and experience, and amongst the crop of players who. I think understood the assignment, but didn't quite deliver it on a consistent basis. And then obviously we transitioned into last season, and I think we did okay on paper to sign some leaders per se. So I do want to caveat that none of this is always guaranteed, but like Morata, we signed him at 33, I think at the time, captain of Spain, but. Is he known for his leadership abilities? Probably no. And and if you look at the window as a whole, we kind of kept to with our sort of signing youngsters and even in the winter as well, we kept to it. And Walker was supposed to be an emblem for that as well. And I do think there were some signs of kind of, yes, he wasn't great on the pitch, but at least he showed elements of high performance culture, if you'd like to call it, at least tried to. From you could see it from the snippets of videos you saw him complaining at the likes of João Felix, keeping it simple. You're not Messi, etc. And then we go into this summer. Walker's gone, and obviously those age experienced players aren't there to mention. Who's left to take over that reins and responsibility? And I've really liked the two names that we're heavily linked with, and hopefully very close to signing. And that's obviously Luka Modric and Granit Xhaka. Specifically in the positions that they play in midfield, because that is very spoken about. That can win and lose you games of football. The control of the midfield, you see it. Obviously the 5-0 loss to PSG isn't a good example, but typically midfield and their experience in midfield is how they can calmly control games and the tempo of games, and not sort of lose their heads in the moments of all the mid. I think we struggled last season having too many box-to-box midfielders. And if you look at these profiles, specifically Modric and Xhaka, slower tempo players, and there's pros and cons about this, but ultimately I'm going to expect a level of experience going to come into the side and allow us to play a style of football that doesn't take stupid chances, I would say, in the midfield, and equally control the game, which is something I've not seen in quite a few years now. So, looking at them on paper, and we can go into kind of what they symbolize as players, both national team captains for Croatia and Switzerland, respectively. And I guess the style of football that they play, Modric in itself, fuck me, like his resume is Ballon d'Or, like what he's won with Real Madrid. Granit Xhaka as well, moving to Leverkusen, completely rewrited his history of how he was symbolized at Arsenal. And I saw him physically saw him in certain games. Was it like walk off the pitch after being subbed off and kind of like basically telling the Arsenal fans to go fuck themselves, turn things around for his career. I think there's a lot to build off here with these two players, and looking at them more as just talent coming in. And I mean, that's a good starting point. What do you think of, I guess, the high potential signings of both of those players?
Yeah, I mean, like you, I think we can confidently say that they're the two. I mean, Modric is effectively done. I mean, we haven't signed on the dotted line, but it's near enough done. And then Xhaka is clearly the player that Tare in particular wants to bring in. And I personally want to focus on Xhaka first. I really wanted Xhaka at Milan when he left Arsenal.
Yeah,
it'd be perfect. I think he was like 28 at that point. So he was in his prime. He was ideal, but obviously didn't go for him, and that's fine. But I think I want to focus on the mentality aspect. So what we had before with Kier and Ibra, Ibra is a bit of an enigma, but we're going to just focus on Ibra as the player, right? At least at the end of his career, when he came and rejoined us. But they're the sort of players, and even Florenzi to a degree, that they're not coming for a paycheck. They're coming like. If you look at the bullet points of what they're here to do, for most football players in modern day, it's like collecting a paycheck, looking after their family, whatever is like number one, right? They're playing football, cool. For these kind of guys, it's like respect and honor and all these sort of like intangible things that seem so like old day type thing, but it's true. And there aren't many players left like that. Modric is obviously of that same ilk, being of a similar age and everything. So fine with Modric. But Xhaka's one of the very few. If you look at his interviews, I've been watching some interviews actually when he was at Arsenal and at Leverkusen. His mentality is unreal. Like he is ruthless, and I'm really excited to have someone like that isn't here. Like he probably has had lots of different offers, and he's the sort of player. He's one of Switzerland's best ever players alongside Shaqiri. Been part of Switzerland's best ever team, I would say, historically as well. Captain of that team. So he's a really big name, especially for a small nation. He will get offers. But the fact that he's come to Milan and think, no, I'm going to do 2-3 seasons here or whatever, and I'm going to fucking really hold it by the neck. We need that. That's fantastic. So yeah, can't say anything other than being fantastic. Great signings. Obviously, they're both old. Xhaka's not as much, but he's not the ideal age group that we want. We can't be building our midfield around it. But we know that the immediate problem, like you said at the start of the video, Steph, is not just the mentality fixing, the fact that we need to cure this sort of illness that there was around the squad, but just the midfield, like you said, like we were parted like the Red Sea every game. So we need that immediate stability, and maybe the Javi Guerra, who is not someone we're focusing on necessarily today, but that young midfielder to go alongside. So you've got maybe Loftus-Cheek as a rotation, Bondo, who I still think deserves a chance. That's fine, especially for next season. That's absolutely fine.
We still employ Fofana as well. Let's not forget about him.
And Yusuf Fofana. I keep forgetting. So that's fine.
I mean, I think we probably don't need to talk about. Was it Javi Guerra?
No, he's not. He's the other mold. But
I think we all know that those two signings, Modric and Xhaka, aren't going to be it or enough. We do need an additional signing. I really hope we can crack on and getting Musa sold personally, and market there for West Ham. I think Napoli have pulled out because I don't know. Rumours were Anguissa might be sold, and he was the replacement. I still think there's a market there for him, and hopefully we shift him because he's exactly the player that these players are the opposite of. Talking about like experience, composure, football IQ. And Musa's obviously got things like speed in abundance, but
he's athletic. That's great.
Yeah, great. But if you look at Serie A and where it's at, considering we are literally playing our only games next season in Italian football, whether it's Coppa Italia, whether it's Serie A, what do the top teams around the league have? And if you look at it's not these blistering box to box midfielders who can create and score at the quality that someone like Reinders had. Reinders was the exception, and you got players like McTominay, fantastic seasons. But look at like other teams, and you look at like we played against them, we watched them. Bologna have Freuler, but Roma have Paredes. Lobotka, he doesn't play with so much speed. It's controlling the tempo of football.
You're quite
Obviously,
right. Like marshalling the
yeah,
midfield. Yeah.
It's how you command that midfield. And Italian football, yes, there are some teams that might go against the grain. You've got the teams like Como and your more sort of attacking based sides. But naturally, as a balance, there's an element of a tactical game of football there still. And it's like a game of chess. And I think we have definitely suffered in allowing these box to box midfielders with obviously a lot of, technical ability, skill, speed to try to command a game of football in a league where, our intelligence and IQ and managing a game of football is so important.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, Modric, he's turning 40 in September, October. Not great, but then I can throw shades at Ibrahimovic there as well. And equally, his fitness levels cannot be challenged. Yes, he doesn't probably finish 90 minutes a game of football, but he can give you 60. He can play a lot of games of footballs there throughout the course of a season. Christ, he's out playing Club World Cup with Real Madrid. But then it's more about his leadership abilities there and how his talent can rub off to other midfielders he's coveted around. Xhaka, though, is certainly a player who can give you a full season, 90 minutes a game. I think he's 33 years old. And he won't be the first nor the last player come to Serie A, obviously of a higher profile, and give a lot to a side at this sort of, not like last chance saloon of his career, but very much the last part of his prime. And I think, there are shades of when Inter signed like Mkhitaryan or Edin Dzeko from Roma. There are shades of that comparison as well. You kind of squeeze the last bit of quality out of these players. And it's not only going to give you the leadership element, it's also going to give you the quality on the pitch as well. And I think I'm kind of getting prepared for a style of football with Allegri, and we'll come on to Allegri now, where we've mentioned about it last time, where his teams historically have not been about the whole starting, the 10 players outside of the goalkeeper playing with stylish football, willing to attack the game. It's always been sort of semi-attacking fullbacks, a stable midfield full of experience who can win the ball back, and then the attackers play with speed and technical ability. I mean, Christ, look at our midfield when we won the Scudetto, Van Bommel, Gattuso, who were basically winning the ball back and giving the ball to the likes of Robinho and Cassano and Ibrahimovic. And they're very similar to his Juventus sides he's had as well. And I'm willing to kind of give this a go where, I would love a midfielder to come in and score 20 goals a season like Reinders did. But the reality is, I don't trust our recruitment consistently for that. I'd rather we just control the tempo of a game of football, get the best out of the players of 100%. And if it might mean we win a lot more games 1-0, then so be it. But how many games last season were we 1-0 down or coming back from 2-0 down?
A lot.
Losing at halftime. You just can't keep going through that. And winning culture comes from winning the ugly way. We did it quite a few times in that prime Pioli, those seasons that he had there, obviously Scudetto and post Scudetto season. And we need to get back to that winning culture, and that then inspires confidence, allows players to play at the best of their ability, and then we will see some systemic improvements. But we can probably touch on to Allegri's element here, or equally just close out the midfield. If I look at Modric and Xhaka coming in, and you think, who's that third piece there? Because it goes without saying we're going to play with a 4-3-3. And that's when that third piece is where you have that, I don't know, the wild card, the more faster player, the player who's going to be more of the box-to-box element. Is that Fofana? Is that Warren Bondo? Is it Xavi Guerra? I mean, is it Ruben Loftus-Cheek? I mean, that third bit is really where I'm looking to see probably some goals, or the player who's going to pop up in the box and bring that quality there.
It's going to be interesting. For me, I think it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, Xhaka, I would imagine, will be at the base of the midfield. Maybe Modric, potentially, actually. I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see, because Modric isn't the player that's going to be able to play, like you said, 90 minutes. So I'm more keen to see when he comes off what the shift's going to be. That for me is going to be quite interesting. But I just wanted to touch on the last part about the midfield. You got to bear in mind as well, you're spot on about, we just need to, steady the shit, I want good tempo football, not over the top, controlling games, just winning a game. 1-0, I'm happy with that. We know what we're going to get with Allegri. But also, you got to think, maybe this is cope, and I hope the guys listening don't think it is, because I really have thought about this a lot. We love Reinders, amazing player, but I actually think we're not going to miss him, because a team sitting in 8th with a midfielder scoring 12 goals or whatever doesn't mean anything. It's like, okay, you're in 8th, you've got your best player as a midfielder who's a shining star. You take that away, I don't think those 12 goals are going to move the goalpost. You're going to stay mid-table, if you get what I'm trying to say. You need the whole system to be working. The midfielder like that is shining. That's a cherry on the top signing. That's why Man City went to get him, because they're a team that's already got the structure. You bring in a midfielder that can score, 5 to 10 goals. Brilliant. We're not in that position. We need the midfielders to control the game, stop leaking goals. Because as much as I love Reinders, he wasn't a defensive midfielder, regardless of what Pep turns him into.
He couldn't win the ball back.
He can't defend. He couldn't defend. Yeah. So,
I mean, he is someone, and the reality is like you put him next to Xhaka and a Modric, and
sure.
And I think you're looking at a much more solid,
100%,
midfield. I still think there's something potentially missing there from a defensive end. I do think Xhaka brings that sort of intensity, but I really wish the player from Bruges. I mean, I've seen clips of him, man. Yeah, it just looks
too expensive. We won't spend.
I know, and it's a sad thing about that, but I looked at him and the way he controlled the flow of the ball, and now he won the ball back. I think he'd just been perfect. But then we'd still probably been asking for more of a dynamic midfielder when it comes to creating and scoring, and maybe that's Xavi Guerra.
What's sad about the Jashiri thing, though, is like, I know that if a big team doesn't come this summer, they'll come next summer, and he'll be a £60 million player. And it's like, why can't we take that risk? Why can't we take that gamble?
Yeah, but I think he's going to be like, they're quoting about 40 million euros for him. I think it's just out of our price range,
which is a lot for
it's
a player from
Club
Brugge. Don't get me wrong.
I think if it was 20, 25, maybe up to 30,
maybe 30 to 35 at a push, you might be able to negotiate it down.
But I mean, for a DM, I just don't see us going in the money into that market. But and I think before we get onto like Allegri, but like what fans I think need to kind of prepare themselves for is because where we are and a lot of work that's going to be needed done in the market. Obviously, we want fantastic signings and we want everything to look right for next season. But I'm stabilizing my preparation for next season just to be for how do we get back into Champions League. I'm being very much of a realist about this, and as much as like signing the players we all wish and dream we should be signing, I just want enough to get top 4 and get top 4 comfortably. Use the advantage of only playing one game a week, and use that in a way that's going to be perhaps controlling games of football and being quite smart on the pitch. Yes, there are many other better options probably from a box-to-box perspective than Xavi Guerra, but if it's going to be enough, then so be it, and then we build off that from next season. But the question I've got is more the attack now, and we'll come on to that probably in coming weeks, because rumors of strikers we're looking to sign. Is Santiago Jimenez still going to be with us? I think the way that we're shaping this midfield is going to be much more, obviously, the onus on the attackers getting the lion's share of the goals. Last season, Pulisic put his numbers up, great, but without a Reinders, to your point, but the juxtaposition being like, okay, I haven't got that player who's going to score up to 15 to 17 goals in a calendar year. Who's going to put up those goals now? And I think this is where the way we're shaping this midfield should be that the likes of Leao and the forwards there should be putting up more numbers. And I think this is where it's going to be sort of you're going to roll the dice on hopefully getting a good season out of those players there. Because, I mean, as you should, they're attackers. Leao should be getting more goals than he got last season, without a doubt.
Yeah, I agree. I want the midfield to be the facilitators, not the main show. That's what I would want, regardless. So, yeah. So speaking on that then, as you were saying, Steph, what do you think about the sort of Allegri movements? The bloke's been in Sardinia as we speak now, having a nice pre-season holiday. There's been a lot of talk about how much Tare and Allegri have been at Casa Milan, man doing his job, great news. I wish people wrote about us going to the office. That would be fantastic. But all jokes aside, we touched a little bit on the formation and the expectation of Allegri football. But are you excited? Like, what are your thoughts about this slower tempo that inevitably is going to be the case? Which I think you said it's correct. It's the Italian way with where we are.
I'm just excited to see. There's a lot of things I'm kind of like, before I get too carried away up. Obviously, there's a lot of movement still to be done in the market. Obviously, we're mentioning these 2 players. They've not fully officially signed yet for us. There's outgoings in abundance. You know, the 8+ players coming back from loan. I'm very interested. I'm actually quite excited in a way, and intrigued to see what, in about 3 weeks' time, what training camp starts to look like, and how he looks at. There are a lot of players he's going to have there on first day of training, without a doubt, and who he starts to pick apart as players that he might look to utilize or not. There are some players coming back from loan. I don't know. They could have a place here, like your likes of Tommaso Pobega, Davide Calabria. I don't know, but like, I'm not saying I'm excited for those 2, but I'm just, there's a different lens now going to be on this side, and probably a lens of professionalism. I'm actually just excited to hopefully see players play with grinta, with the best of their ability, to simplify the game and play some efficient football. That's the thing I'm excited to see, and I think that comes back with these type of signings that we're looking to get. I'm also just slightly intrigued on what Leao is going to be like next season.
I'm buzzing for Leao. I think he's going to be wicked. I think he's going to be wicked, mate. I really do.
Obviously, like, anything can happen in the market. There's still a long time left. There's over 2 months now, and I'm saying that in the worst case scenario that he shifted. I just don't think it's going to happen. But obviously, caveat in that, I feel like he's going to stay and he should be staying. But if he's with us next season, I think he's going to be doing really well. But it's going to be the roll of the dice season for him. It's going to be a big moment for him, because if we are shaping this midfield to facilitate him, he's going to have to put up more numbers in attack. He's going to have to be much more selfish. He can't just keep crossing the box and hoping that Reinders is there, because his Reinders ain't there anymore to pop up with those goals that he was putting up last season. It's going to have to be him going in through on goal and taking those chances. And I really hope
really interesting. It's going to be really interesting.
What do you think? What are you kind of excited for? I mean, with the rumors and I guess the style of football.
I'm thinking that with the way that Jimenez plays and the way that we've been heavily linked with Vlahovic. I mean, so much so that I think Vlahovic it's been reported, I think yesterday or today, that his agent has been, or someone who knows his agent has said that he wants Milan. Like, that's the club he's chosen, which is. I believe that Allegri is going to use the striker as a facilitator. Actually, I don't think that they're going to be penalty box strikers, and the idea is to maybe hold the ball up to allow the Pulisic and Leao's to basically play like right forwards and left forwards respectively. That's maybe what I see with a hard-working midfield that's able to string balls together, instead of the midfield previously, a la Reinders and Fofana, charging in, shots outside the box, dribbling in, trying to get a goal. I don't see that happening from midfield at all. Whereas I think that they're going to be much more focused on, obviously, high pressing, both in attack and defense, and then moving that ball along, which is probably more that I would enjoy. And then allowing, like I said, the Pulisic and Rafa's to get the lion's shares of the goals. That's how I see it. I could be wrong. I could be completely off the mark, and Allegri's looking for, the Pato 2.0 or even Cassano level of striking, second striker ability. I don't know, but that's how I see it, because I've never thought Jimenez is a 20 goal a season striker. I think Jimenez has got some good hold up play, and I like his passing was quite nice. And I don't know about Vlahovic question mark. I honestly don't know. I don't know what the reason is for that, but that's how I see it, Steph. That's my thought process. I think Rafa, if he stays, should he stay, will he stay? Yes to all of those. Hopefully, he will be our main goal threat. I think that's what Allegri is going to make Leao our top goal scorer. That's how I see it in my head, if I'm being really honest.
Yeah, I actually think if trust and faith is given into Jimenez, I think he'll have a good season.
I don't hate the bloke. I'm just
Yeah.
I don't think Allegri rates him, at least this stage.
Yeah. And I think his profile is very similar to Vlahovic. You know, he's talking about two left-footed centre forwards. Don't typically play like a true number 9. You know, they have a bit elements of their game where they can drop in and facilitate a little bit more. And then obviously can work really hard. And
which is what I'm thinking. I think the strikers going to work hard for the wingers. That's what I see.
Yeah. There are just some random players I kind of look at towards the end of last season who kind of finished quite well, and I don't know. I've still kind of holding to hope that someone like Chukwueze this might be the coach for him.
I'm not against keeping Chukwueze for one more season.
I think I would like to keep him.
Yeah, just for one more. I think
one more. I just think you've got to give him a go. He's now he's now used to the league. I scored the other day against like Jamaica and stuff, but like his words at the end of last season, just about how open and honest about how his career's gone at Milan so far, how poor we were as a team. I quite admired the transparency of it. And I think if you are open and honest about your performance as an individual and as a team, I think you can then see your pathway to improve. And that's a bit of me just kind of holds on to hope that he might just have a season where he just kind of gets it and it all starts to click in under like Allegri ball. But I think the wing backs are going to be the intriguing signings that we bring in.
Really important.
Obviously, if Teo stays or not, I think Teo can benefit a lot from Allegri. And specifically the midfield that creates balance and can do a lot of defensive work for him if he loses possession or we're out of possession. And then I think the right wing back, obviously the right back, whatever you'd like to call it, whether it's Alex Jimenez or perhaps a new signing. I think that's where we need to finally get that right, because obviously the right back has been a bit of a poor recruitment there over the last year and a half, basically. Emerson Royale, Walker didn't quite work out. I mean, Emerson Royale is still employed with us as well. Let's not forget about that. But
so's Divock Origi, mate.
So I was going to say so's Ballatore, but he's gone actually.
No, Ballatore's gone. Yeah. Divock Origi's still listed in the Futuro team. Just let that sink in, guys. That is some funny shit.
And the one thing we haven't mentioned is Italian players, and we obviously did last week's video just on signing Italian and the rumors that we've been linked through. And whether it's like Xhaka, Modric, Xavi Guerra, none of these players are Italian. Is Ricci now off the cards? So it's I've always kind of keep my position and very much like sign quality to make the squad work. And I don't care if it's Italian or not. You can't just create talent if it doesn't exist in a national team setup. Although I would love it to be. I do think though it should come back to like giving youngsters a chance, and whether that's Kevin Zerori is probably going to go on loan to Monza for another year, which makes sense.
Serie B,
what's Liberali's future? Camarda needs a loan deal in my mind. I think he needs regular game time.
But I want him in Serie A though. I don't think Camarda should be in Serie B, because I'm a great believer in you play to the level. He looked quite comfortable in Champions League football. He looked quite comfortable the back end of the season when he got minutes in Serie A against the likes of the Veronas or whatever. I can't remember exactly, but you know what I mean? Those sort of lower sides. I think you play to your level. I think Serie B would be regressive for him. Yeah. I think a low Serie A side would be perfect for me, for Camarda.
Yeah, maybe. Look, I like to think we can try to insert him in some sort of deal, like whether it's what's his name, is Leone from Parma. If we can sort of go like, all right, we send you Camarda on loan and we send you another like a chip to like, I don't know. We talk about Colombo going there and stuff like that, but it's a question mark on the Italian side of our signings, but the positions we need, I just don't see a lot of players other than maybe someone like Ricci, and obviously Ravella I think is a realistic target, but the signings and the positions we need, I just don't see talent in the national team setup that can come in and just replace those slots. Unless we spoke about Udogie to replace Teo, but if Teo doesn't go, then you don't sign Udogie. And who's a right back that you could sit here right now and tell me is good in the Italy setup that we should be going for? I just don't see any. So.
Yeah, no, the Italian thing is sad, but it's clear that there's a little bit more impetus than previously to get Italian players in, which is great. But at this stage, as much as I want more Italians, I really, really do. I just want the best players that we can get in the positions at this stage. That is honestly what we need to do. We need to stop the bleeding, get those leaders in, change that mentality. And if that comes with Italians, fantastic. If it doesn't, honestly, I don't really care. ultimately. So yeah, I just want that leadership. I want those players to come in and the Xhakas and Modric's of the world to come in. I mean, Mike will be interesting talking about leaders. Actually, wanting to touch Mike very, very quickly. What happens with the captaincy next season? Like that's something. He is a leader, whether you like to admit it or not. He's a bit odd in some accounts, like he's a bit of a lone wolf type character, but he's been probably the biggest leader we've had, at least on the field, I would say. He's not great off the field, maybe, but on the field, he's pretty good. What happens with him? He's our captain at the moment. You know,
I think the captaincies, whatever happens to him is, that's a good, maybe we talk about that next week, but we can talk about, if Mike stays, does he get to keep it? Without a renewal. And then who are the alternative options? We spoke about some potential ones just from, we're talking about captains for the national team, Xhaka and Modric, but
I can't have a player coming in straight away. Modric maybe is an exception because of the level of player he was and is. But other than him, I don't want Xhaka coming in being captain. I'm not having that. Personally, I don't like that.
Which is I'm aligned with that. But then what would it be? Would it be Gabbia? Obviously, Primavera player coming through. You know, that he's got years in the bank there. Is it someone like, I'm just trying to think who else it would be. I don't think
Rafa.
you give it to,
I'd love Rafa to step. I know, but I'd love it, bro. By appearances, he is the guy. If we're going, because let's say Teo, regardless if he stays or not, ain't being captain. So Rafa's the player with the most appearances left in the squad. So, you know, if it depends what Allegri wants to do. I'd love Rafa with the arm.
I can see this already, like falling on its ass. You give him the
what a leader, my boy.
And he misses an open goal and be like, captain shouldn't be that. It's like, fucking hell. Nah. It needs to be, I'm old school, man. Captain needs to be defenders and midfielders. Simple as.
Look, I'd be happy with Modric coming in, at least for one season.
Yeah.
Who knows? But guys, obviously, listening, we'd love to know what you think on all the points we raised today, but in particular, the aspect of leaders, who you're most looking forward to. Because again, I think we're pretty confident in thinking Modric is basically done. I think Xhaka will probably happen. It seems to be very, very close. So those two players are that leadership injection. We'd love to know what you guys think about that. Reminiscent of 2019? That's when we brought in the Ibras and the Kiers of the world, wasn't it?
Yeah, quick fix in December 20. Well, 2020, I think. January 2020, they came in. But
I think so. Yeah,
it was 2019, 2020 season. Yeah. Good metaphor there. But let us know what you think, guys. I mean, do you think it's going to be not work out on the pitch? Do you think it's going to be too slow of a tempo, or does it offset with what we could hopefully do from a game management perspective? But that's all from me. But Lorenzo, I'll let you sign off. But have a good week, everyone. Hopefully it's sunny wherever you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't if you're in the UK, stay cool. If you're somewhere hotter, lucky you, because you probably have aircon and stuff. So fair play. But enjoy it. Have a lovely rest of your weekend, and we'll speak to you guys soon. Ciao.
Ciao.